So imagine that you want to train for a marathon, or you want to run a marathon. In order to run this marathon, you have to train, of course, or else you're going to die. So in order to train for this marathon, you decide to run 3 miles every day for 6 days a week, for 6 days. As your training progresses, you start to feel stronger and stronger. And then you feel like you can do anything. And then as the marathon gets closer, you feel weaker. Your joints are always aching. No matter how much you ice, your body still hurts. Most people think that the more you run, the healthier you'll be. My claim is that running long distances is actually harmful for your body. Active.com said that studies have shown that moderate exercise is good for you, but excessive exercising is actually damaging for you. In a study done by Medicine, Science, and Sports and Exercise, they did a study which included 52,000 people, and they conducted the study for 30 years. They showed that runners had 90% lower death risk than non-runners. However, the health benefits were diminished among people who ran either over 20 miles a week, more than 6 days a week, or faster than an 8-minute mile. In another study done by European Heart Journal, they compared hearts of 54 marathoners and 54 people who didn't do exercise as a control group. The runners had more coronary plaque buildup, which is a risk for heart disease. I have personal experience with this. I used to run cross country in high school. I ran for 4 years. Each week, varsity girls usually run about 35 miles a week. Within my 4 years of running, I strained my hamstring twice, strained my ankle deltoid, almost tore my meniscus, and I did tear my meniscus, and I almost tore my Achilles, and I got plantar fasciitis. I was at the sports clinic constantly getting stem cell treatments or physical therapy. Even today, since I don't run, I run like about 2 miles a week. My knee and ankle joints are constantly uncomfortable and hurting. And whenever I move my knees, I can feel them grinding against each other. In another article called Why You Should Run a Mile Instead of a Marathon by Business Insider, they discussed how interval training is actually better for you than running long distances. Interval training is when you do a hard, intense workout for about 30 seconds, then you rest, recover, and then you repeat that. This workout usually lasts about 10-15 minutes. They've conducted a study between people who do interval training and marathon runners. They practice the same amount of time, or train the same amount of length, like a month. And then people who did interval training actually had a better peak oxygen uptake. So being healthier, interval training is actually healthier in the long run. Another article, is Running Marathon Bad for Your Health by CBS News. They discussed the advantages and disadvantages of running long distances. Some of the advantages discussed were that it helps your weight control, it reduces stress, it's better for your blood pressure, and it can help lower cholesterol. Some of the disadvantages were that it can overload the heart, it causes scar tissue, and it also causes irregular heartbeat. Irregular heartbeat can lead to sudden death. From the study, you could tell that the disadvantages eliminate the benefits. And because of these, this is why I believe that running long distances is harmful for your body. Thank you.
All right, Savannah, let me pick out the stuff that was really solid to begin with, and then we'll talk about some of the things that maybe you need to make an adjustment on. The proposition is very clearly identified, so that's good. And I thought that you cited your information very effectively in the presentation. It sounds like there's a lot of source citation for the studies that you make reference to. So I think you're doing a good job there. There's good examples, some statistical information. You've got testimony there and some factual data. So when it comes to your information, it's in pretty good shape. Now, I think that information needs to be put together a little bit more effectively, because it seems like there's no preview of what the structure is going to be, and as that information is coming up, it feels like a random series of data. Here's another study, here's another study, here's another study, without necessarily it being collated into very clear supporting claims. So as I'm listening, I think everything that you're presenting fits into the argument that you're talking about. But in processing the argument, I think listeners are going to need a lot more structure for those secondary points. Otherwise, it just, like I said, it becomes a series of data instead of a series of inferences. And you want us to be able to make those inferences. I also thought, by the way, that it was very nicely developed in terms of the presentation. You talked to us for the most part. I like the personal experience that you used to build some credibility for yourself. That helps also. All right, thank you. We're going to have our Jordans back-to-back, apparently. How did that happen? I don't know. Jordan Zerbel is going to be our first of the Jordans.